The holographic display cast a soft blue glow across Dr. Sarah Chin's face as she reviewed the latest test results. The numbers couldn't be right, but they were. After 15 years of research, they'd finally done it. Her hands trembled as she transferred the data to a secure backup, the magnitude of their discovery settling heavily on her shoulders. "Marcus, you need to see this," she called out, her voice echoing through the dimly lit laboratory aboard Helios Prime. The research station hung in high orbit around Europa, its location chosen specifically for the quantum stability provided by Jupiter's massive gravitational field. Security Chief Marcus Torres stepped away from his usual post by the lab's reinforced doors, his footsteps silent despite his imposing frame. Years of military-grade augmentations had left him moving with an almost preternatural grace. "Another breakthrough, Doc?" he asked, the corner of his mouth lifting in a half-smile. Sarah expanded the holographic display, filling the air between them with streams of neural mapping data. "We've achieved stable consciousness transfer between organic and synthetic substrates. Full retention, no degradation." She highlighted a particular sequence of data points. "The test subject maintained complete continuity of consciousness. Do you understand what this means?" Marcus studied the display, his cybernetic eyes adjusting to process the complex data streams. "Human immortality," he said quietly. "The ability to transfer consciousness between bodies, between machines." He left the implications hanging in the air. "This changes everything," Sarah whispered. "Everything we thought we knew about the nature of consciousness, about what it means to be human." She began typing rapidly, initiating the standard protocols for revolutionary discoveries. The data would be transmitted to Earth's Science Council through quantum-encrypted channels, peer-reviewed, and eventually shared with humanity at large. The station's proximity alert system chose that moment to shatter their revelry. Marcus was moving before the second tone finished, his augmented reflexes carrying him to the security console. "Multiple objects dropping out of FTL," he reported, his voice shifting to the clipped tones of his military days. "Nothing matching known configurations in our database." Sarah felt her blood run cold. In all of human history, they'd never encountered another spacefaring species. The timing couldn't be coincidence. The objects resolved themselves on the main display. Massive vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, their surfaces rippling with patterns that hurt her eyes to look at. They moved with impossible grace for their size, surrounding the station in a perfect geometric formation. "Station-wide alert," Marcus barked into the command channel. "All personnel to secure positions. This is not a drill." He turned to Sarah, his expression grave. "Doc, initiate emergency data purge protocols. Whatever they are, they chose this moment specifically. They're here for your research." As if in response to his words, every display in the lab flickered and changed. A face appeared, if it could be called a face. It shifted between forms, human, alien, mechanical, and things Sarah's mind couldn't quite process. "Greetings, children of Earth," the being spoke, its voice resonating not just through the speakers, but seemingly inside their heads. "We are the collective. Your species has achieved something remarkable, but you are not ready for its implications. Surrender your research data, and your lives will be preserved. Resistance is inadvisable." Marcus was already moving, inputting emergency codes into the security systems. "Sarah, delete everything. Now." "Too late for that, I think," she said, her fingers flying across her console. Instead of initiating a deletion, she began an emergency transfer protocol she created years ago, but never thought she'd need. The station's quantum mainframe connected directly to the neural implants all staff members wore, standard equipment for sharing research data. But Sarah had modified hers and Marcus's implants specifically for this kind of situation. The first explosion rocked the station before she could explain. Alarms blared as atmospheric containment warnings flashed across every screen. Through the reinforced windows, Sarah watched in horror as sections of the station began to decompress, bodies of her colleagues floating lifelessly into space. "Sarah." Marcus grabbed her arm. "We need to move. Now." "Almost done," she muttered, completing the transfer. She could feel the data flooding into her neural implant, far more than it was designed to hold. The pain was immediate and intense, but she held on. "Marcus, listen to me. I've transferred everything to our implants. The core research is in yours, encrypted. Even you won't be able to access it consciously, but it's there. Keep it safe." Another explosion rocked the lab. The door burst inward, and Sarah caught her first physical glimpse of the collective. They moved like liquid mercury given form, their bodies shifting between states of matter. Her scientific mind wanted to study them, understand them. Her human mind wanted to run screaming. "The knowledge is preserved," she said quickly, pressing something into Marcus's hand. Her personal quantum key. "Find the others. They'll know what to do with it." Before he could react, she shoved him toward the emergency escape pods. "Sarah, no." She slammed her hand down on the emergency partition control. A reinforced barrier dropped between them as she turned to face the advancing entities. The last thing Marcus saw was Sarah Chen standing tall before the collective, her voice carrying through the station's failing comm system. "Humanity will never surrender its potential. Even if you take this station, what we've discovered will change everything. You can't stop what's coming." Marcus felt the neural implant burning in his skull as the escape pod ejected into space. Through the small viewport, he watched Helios Prime's fusion core detonate, the explosion temporarily outshining Jupiter itself. In that final flash, he saw the collective ships vanish, taking with them humanity's greatest minds and most important discovery. But they hadn't taken everything. The weight of Sarah's quantum key felt heavy in his hand, and heavier still was the knowledge now hidden in his modified implant. The collective had revealed themselves too soon, shown their hand. They feared what humanity might become. As his pod drifted in Jupiter's shadow, Marcus Torres made a silent vow. The collective thought they could control humanity's ascension, contain their potential. But they had just created something far more dangerous. A man with nothing left to lose, carrying the key to their destruction. The real question was, who would find him first? The remnants of humanity's secret resistance, or the collective's hunters? The pod's emergency beacon pulsed steadily in the darkness, calling out to whoever might be listening in the void. The mining outpost on Ceres wasn't much to look at, but that was precisely why Marcus had chosen it. 3 months had passed since the attack on Helios Prime, and the headaches were getting worse. Every night, his dreams were filled with fragments of memories that weren't his own, equations he didn't understand, faces he'd never met, and theories that made his augmented mind spin. He sat in his small quarters, examining Sarah's quantum key under the dim light. The device was unlike anything in common use. Its crystalline structure seemed to shift when he wasn't looking directly at it. Another gift from her years of secret research, no doubt. A sharp pain lanced through his skull, and suddenly he wasn't in his quarters anymore. He was standing in a laboratory he'd never seen, watching Sarah speak with a group of people whose faces kept changing, like bad holographic projections. "The collective has been guiding us," Sarah's voice echoed in his mind. "Every major technological breakthrough in human history. They were there, watching, nudging us in specific directions. But this time, we'd gone off script. Consciousness transfer wasn't supposed to happen for another century, according to their plans." The vision shifted, showing him star charts, colonial outposts, and research stations, each one marked with a specific date and a technological breakthrough. The pattern was undeniable. Humanity's scientific advancement had been carefully orchestrated. Marcus snapped back to reality, sweat beading on his forehead. The neural implant burned hot in his skull, but now he understood. Sarah hadn't just hidden her research inside his head. She'd hidden her memories, her understanding. The information was bleeding through gradually, protecting his mind from being overwhelmed all at once. His comm unit chirped, An unauthorized channel, heavily encrypted. Marcus answered cautiously, "Go ahead." "The stars are brightest before dawn," a woman's voice said. "But only if you're looking through the right telescope." Marcus smiled grimly. Contact protocols, just like Sarah had mentioned in his latest memory flash. "The dawn comes sooner if you know where to look," he responded, completing the authentication. "Security Chief Torres, good to finally reach you. I'm Maya Patel, and we need to talk about what happened at Helios Prime." The voice was calm, professional. "There's a maintenance airlock on level 3 of your facility. Be there in 20 minutes if you want to know the truth about the collective." Marcus checked his weapons, both the official sidearm and the more interesting toys he'd acquired over the past 3 months. "I'll be there. But if this is a trap, if we wanted you dead, the collective would have found you weeks ago. We're the ones keeping their hunters off your trail." The channel closed with a burst of static. The maintenance airlock was exactly where Maya said it would be, and just as deserted. Marcus's cybernetic eyes scanned for surveillance devices, finding none. When the airlock cycled, he wasn't surprised to see a sleek stealth shuttle matching velocity with the station. Maya Patel was tall and thin, with obvious military-grade augmentations similar to his own. "Walk with me," she said, leading him into the shuttle. "We have a lot to discuss and not much time." The shuttle's interior was packed with advanced monitoring equipment, holographic displays showing surveillance feeds from across the solar system. One screen showed the wreckage of Helios Prime, still orbiting Jupiter. "We're called the Watchers," Maya explained, bringing up classified files on the main display. "We've known about the collective for decades, tracking their influence on human development. They've done this before, to countless other species across the galaxy. Guide their technological evolution, let them advance to a certain point, then step in, and—" She paused, looking grim. "And what?" Marcus demanded. "Harvest them. Take their best and brightest, steal their most advanced technology, and add it to their own capabilities. The species that resist are eliminated. The ones that submit become thralls, their consciousness subsumed into the collective's neural network." Marcus's implant throbbed as new memories surfaced. Sarah had known some of this. But something's different this time. The consciousness transfer technology. Maya nodded. "It's the key to everything. The collective maintains control through their own version of consciousness transfer technology. They can move between bodies at will, maintain their grip on subjugated species. But Dr. Chen's breakthrough was different. She found a way to make the transfer permanent, irreversible. A consciousness that can't be overwritten or controlled. True independence," Marcus whispered. "No wonder they attacked when they did." "Exactly. But they made a mistake." Maya brought up a new display, showing attacks on research stations and colonies across human space. "They're scared. For the first time in their existence, they're facing something they can't control. And now they're moving too fast, being too obvious. People are starting to notice." Another memory flash hit Marcus. Technical specifications, quantum encryption protocols. "Sarah knew you existed," he said. "She prepared for this, modified my implant specifically to help me find you." "Dr. Chen was one of our primary contacts," Maya confirmed. "But even she didn't know everything. The collective isn't just hostile to humanity. They're a cautionary tale. They were once like us, seeking technological transcendence. But when they achieved it, they became obsessed with controlling how other species developed, believing only they could guide evolution correctly." The shuttle sensors pinged a warning. Maya quickly checked the readings. "We need to move. Collective hunters just entered the system." She handed Marcus a quantum-encrypted data chip. "Everything we know about them is on here. You have a choice to make, Security Chief. You can keep running, or you can join us. Help us use what's hidden in that implant of yours to free humanity, and maybe every other species under their control." Marcus thought of Sarah, standing defiant before the collective. He thought of the memories slowly unfolding in his mind, the pieces of a puzzle she trusted him to complete. "When do we start?" Maya smiled, initiating the shuttle stealth systems. We already have. There's a resistance cell meeting in the Kuiper Belt, scientists and soldiers working together to understand the collective's technology. Dr. Chen wasn't the only one close to a breakthrough. We just have to put the pieces together before they find us. As the shuttle accelerated away from Ceres, Marcus felt the neural implant pulse once, almost like it was acknowledging his decision. Somewhere in his modified consciousness, Sarah's voice whispered equations and theories that could change the fate of not just humanity, but every species trapped under the collective's control. The hunters were coming, but this time, humanity would be ready for them. The Kuiper Belt Research Facility, Haven, lived up to its name, hidden within a hollowed-out ice asteroid. Marcus stood before the quantum computing core, watching streams of data flow through crystalline matrices as Sarah's memories continued to unlock in his mind. Each revelation brought them closer to understanding the true scope of what they faced. The neural architecture is remarkable, Dr. Yuki Tanaka said, examining the readings from Marcus's implant. The scientist's fingers danced across holographic controls, her own augmented eyes tracking multiple data streams simultaneously. Dr. Chen didn't just hide her research, she encoded it into a learning algorithm. The data reveals itself as your mind becomes ready to process it. Maya entered the lab, her expression tense. We've got movement. The collective just hit 3 more research stations in the inner system. They're not even trying to hide anymore. She brought up a tactical display showing the attacks. New Damascus, Olympus Station, and the Ganymede Institute, all facilities working on quantum computing or neural interface technology. They're scared, Marcus said, another memory surfacing. Sarah discovered something else about them, something beyond the consciousness transfer technology. He pressed his hands to his temples, trying to focus through the surge of information. The collective, they're not just controlling other species. They're consuming them. Each consciousness they absorb adds to their processing power, their understanding of reality itself. Yuki's hands froze above her controls. That's why they guide technological development. They're farming consciousness, cultivating species to produce the type of minds they want to absorb. The quantum core pulsed, and suddenly the lab's displays filled with new data, hidden information emerging from Marcus's implant. Complex equations and theoretical models showed the true nature of consciousness transfer, not just between bodies, but between states of existence. Sarah found a way to break their network, Marcus said, the understanding finally clicking into place. The consciousness transfer technology doesn't just move minds between bodies. It can sever the connections the collective uses to maintain control. We could free every enslaved species in their empire. An alarm blared through the facility. Maya rushed to the security console. We've got multiple FTL signatures approaching the outer system. Big ones. They followed us, Marcus growled. They must have tracked the quantum signals from our research. No, Maya said, her voice quiet. These ships are different. Look at the configurations. The tactical display showed vessels unlike the collective's usual craft. These were organic-looking, almost alive, moving with a fluidity that suggested a completely different technological base. A transmission cut through their communications, the language unlike anything Marcus had heard before. Haven's translation system struggled for a moment before converting it to English. Children of Earth, we are the Free Minds Coalition. We detected your quantum research signatures and came to warn you. The collective knows what you've discovered, and they're marshaling their full fleet. You've become too great a threat to handle with their usual subtle methods. Maya opened a channel. This is Haven Facility. How do we know we can trust you? Because we were like you once, the alien voice replied. We developed consciousness transfer technology independently, just as you have. The collective tried to harvest our species, but some of us escaped. We've spent millennia building a resistance, waiting for another species to discover the key to breaking their control. In Marcus's mind, Sarah's memories surged forward. showing him something she'd kept hidden until this moment. In her final moments on Helios Prime, she hadn't just faced the collective. She'd scanned them, using the station's quantum sensors to analyze their fundamental structure. "They're right," he said, the knowledge flowing through him. "The collective's unified consciousness is their strength, but also their weakness. If we can disrupt their network at a quantum level, using the principles of consciousness transfer." He turned to Yuki. "We need to modify the quantum core. I can show you how." Maya studied the tactical displays. "How long?" "Hours, maybe," Yuki said, already moving to implement the changes Marcus was describing. "But the collective will be here before we finish." "Then we'll buy you time," the alien voice said. "Our ships can hold them off, but you must complete this work. You've discovered something even we couldn't, a way to not just resist the collective, but to free those trapped within it." Marcus felt the neural implant burn as it released more information, showing him the final pieces of Sarah's research. She hadn't just discovered how to transfer consciousness. She'd found a way to fundamentally alter the quantum state of consciousness itself, making it impossible for the collective to absorb or control. "There's something else," he said, the revelation hitting him hard. "The research facility where they took Sarah and the others. I know where it is. The collective has a processing center in the Oort cloud, where they prepare captured minds for absorption. She's still there, fighting them. I can feel it through the implant's quantum connection." Maya's augmented eyes narrowed as she studied the tactical situation. A rescue mission would be suicide. The collective will throw everything they have at protecting that facility. "Good," Marcus said, checking his weapons. "While they're focused on us, the Free Minds Coalition can help Haven complete the modifications to the quantum core. We'll hit them from two directions. Free the captured scientists and use their processing center's own quantum network to distribute the consciousness modification program." "You're talking about starting a war," Maya warned. Marcus watched as the alien ships took up defensive positions around Haven. "No, I'm talking about finishing one. The collective started this when they decided to treat sentient species like crops to be harvested. Now they'll learn why humanity doesn't bow to false gods." The quantum core hummed with increasing power as Yuki began the modifications. Outside, the first collective ships began appearing at the edge of the system, their dark forms blotting out the stars. The Free Minds Coalition vessels moved to intercept, their organic hulls glowing with powerful energies. In the vast darkness of the outer solar system, the final battle for consciousness itself was about to begin. And somewhere in the Oort cloud, Sarah Chen waited, her mind holding secrets that could shatter the collective's empire forever. The collective's processing center hung in the void like a twisted cathedral, its architecture defying human comprehension. Dark spires reached into space, connected by bridges of what looked like liquid shadow. Marcus studied it through the stealth shuttle's quantum-shielded viewport, his augmented eyes recording every detail. "Readings confirm at least 300 captured humans inside," Maya reported, her voice tight. "Plus thousands of other species. They're being processed in stages: neural mapping, consciousness extraction, and finally," she didn't need to finish, "they all knew what happened in the final stage." The rescue team consisted of 20 operatives, a mix of human resistance fighters and Free Minds Coalition warriors. The alien soldiers moved with liquid grace in their environmental suits, their forms suggesting an evolutionary path very different from humanity's. Corell, the Coalition's tactical leader, moved to Marcus's side. The alien's crystalline eyes reflected the distant starlight. "The quantum signature from your implant grows stronger. Your Dr. Chen is indeed here, and still herself. The collective has been unable to break her consciousness pattern." Another memory flash hit Marcus, equations and theories flowing through his mind. She knew this would happen, he realized. The consciousness transfer technology she developed doesn't just move minds between bodies. It fundamentally alters the quantum state of consciousness itself, making it impossible for the collective to absorb or override. "Which is why we must free her and the others quickly," Corell said. Our fleet cannot hold the collective's forces indefinitely, even with Haven's modified quantum core providing interference. Marcus checked the quantum keys Sarah had given him one last time. 3 teams. Maya leads the first group to the control center, disrupts their security systems. Corell, your warriors free as many prisoners as possible. I'll find Sarah and the other lead scientists. Their combined knowledge is crucial for what comes next. The mission clock counted down. Through their quantum-encrypted channel, they heard updates from the battle raging in the Kuiper Belt. The Free Minds Coalition fleet was holding, their organic ships dancing through space in patterns that confused the collective's targeting systems. Haven's modified quantum core pulsed waves of interference that disrupted the collective's neural network, but it wouldn't last forever. Breach points identified, Maya announced. The facility's quantum architecture has gaps, places where different dimensional phases don't quite align. We can slip through their defenses there. The teams split up, each heading for their designated entry point. Marcus led his squad through what felt like a tear in reality itself, the quantum breach leaving his augmented senses scrambling to adjust. Inside, the processing center was even more alien. The walls pulsed with neural patterns, countless minds flowing through the facility's network. Captured beings of various species were held in suspension chambers, their consciousness being slowly extracted and processed for absorption into the collective. Life signs ahead, one of Marcus's team whispered, human patterns. They found the first group of captured scientists in a large chamber filled with neural interface equipment. The prisoners floated in suspension fields, their minds connected to the collective's network but not yet absorbed. Marcus's implant burned as it recognized familiar quantum signatures. Get them out, he ordered. But be careful. The collective might have trapped their minds. As his team worked, Marcus pressed deeper into the facility. Sarah's quantum signature grew stronger, pulling him toward what had to be the central processing hub. His implant fed him fragments of technical data about the facility's systems, knowledge Sarah had hidden away for exactly this moment. He found her in a special containment chamber, surrounded by shifting fields of quantum energy. Unlike the other prisoners, she was conscious, her eyes open and alert. The collective had been trying to break into her mind, to understand how she'd achieved what should have been impossible. You took your time, Sarah said as Marcus disabled the containment field. Her voice was weak, but carried a hint of her old humor. Traffic was hell, he replied, helping her stand. Did they get anything from you? No, but I got plenty from them. Her eyes were fever bright. Marcus, I saw into their network. I know what they really are, what they used to be. The collective. They were the first species to achieve consciousness transfer, but it went wrong. They became addicted to absorbing other minds, convinced themselves they were preserving consciousness by collecting it. Alarms blared through the facility. Maya's voice crackled over the comm. Control center secured, but we've got problems. The collective's main fleet just broke through the coalition's lines. They're heading here at full speed. How long? Marcus asked, already moving with Sarah toward their extraction point. 20 minutes, maybe less. We won't survive a direct confrontation. Sarah grabbed Marcus's arm. We don't need to. Take me to the control center. The collective doesn't just collect consciousness. They network it. Every mind they've absorbed is still in there, trapped but not gone. If we can implement the final stage of my research through their own network, understanding dawned. We can free everyone they've taken. Not just here, but across their entire empire. They reached the control center to find Maya and her team defending against waves of security systems. The chamber was a nexus of quantum computing cores, each one processing countless captured minds. The collective is in full panic, Corell reported, arriving with the survivors his team had freed. They know what we're attempting. Sarah was already interfacing with the facility's systems, her neural implant connecting seamlessly with the quantum cores. The consciousness modification program is uploading. When it activates, it will cascade through their entire network. Every absorbed mind will be freed. their consciousness restored to an independent quantum state. "And the collective itself?" Marcus asked. Sarah's expression was grim. "They'll experience what they've inflicted on countless others, the dissolution of their unified consciousness. Each of them will become an individual again, forced to face what they've become." The facility shuddered as the first wave of collective ships arrived. Through the quantum network, Marcus felt the rising tide of panic from their enemies. For the first time in their long history, the collective faced something they couldn't absorb or control. "Program uploaded," Sarah announced. "Beginning activation sequence. This will take several minutes to propagate through their entire network." Marcus took up a defensive position with the others. "Then let's make sure they don't stop it. One way or another, the age of the collective ends today." The quantum cores pulsed with increasing power as Sarah's program began its work. Throughout the facility, imprisoned minds stirred, preparing to break free. The final battle for consciousness itself was about to begin, and humanity had struck the first blow. The processing center's quantum cores thrummed with power as Sarah's program spread through the collective's neural network. Each pulse sent ripples through reality itself, consciousness after consciousness breaking free from their captor's control. Marcus watched the facility's internal displays as dots of light representing imprisoned minds began to flare and separate from the collective's dark mass. "First wave of minds successfully individualized," Sarah announced, her hands dancing across the quantum interface. "The program is spreading faster than they can contain it." Her eyes were unfocused, seeing things through the neural network that others couldn't. Every freed consciousness is acting as a new point of transmission, exponentially increasing the program's reach. Outside, the battle raged. The Free Minds Coalition fleet fought desperately to hold off the collected ships, their organic vessels moving in impossible patterns through space. Haven's modified quantum core continued broadcasting interference patterns, disrupting the collective's ability to coordinate their forces. Maya's tactical display showed more collective ships arriving every minute. "We're about to be overrun. How much longer?" "Program at 30% propagation," Sarah replied. "But they're adapting, trying to isolate sections of their network." Her expression turned grave. "They're starting to sever connections to their own nodes, sacrificing captured minds to prevent the spread." "Monsters to the end," Corell growled, the coalition warrior's crystalline eyes flashing with anger. "Even now, they treat consciousness as a resource to be spent." Marcus felt his neural implant pulse as another of Sarah's hidden memories surfaced. "There's more to your program than just freeing minds, isn't there?" he asked her. "You didn't just solve consciousness transfer, you found a way to transcend it entirely." Sarah's hands stilled for a moment. "Yes, the quantum state I discovered, it's not just about independence from the collective. It's an entirely new form of existence. Consciousness untethered from physical form, able to move freely through space-time itself." "Ascension," Corell whispered. "The very thing the collective sought, but corrupted in their grasp." The facility shuddered as the first collective borders breached the outer defenses. Maya's team moved to defensive positions while Corell's warriors escorted the freed prisoners toward the escape vessels. "Program at 60%, Sarah reported. "But we have minutes at most before they reach us." She turned to Marcus, her eyes intense. "There's a choice to be made. The program can do more than free minds. It can elevate them. Every consciousness in range could be transformed, ascended to that higher state of existence, including the collective themselves," Marcus realized. "Yes, even them. Especially them. They'd be forced to experience true transcendence, to face what they've become with fully awakened consciousness." Sarah's voice was heavy with the weight of the decision. "But there's a cost. Someone has to remain behind, maintain physical form to protect and guide the younger species that aren't ready for ascension. The universe still needs guardians." Through the quantum network, Marcus felt the approaching collective consciousness, a vast, dark tide of unified thought, heavy with the weight of eons. But beneath that unified front, he sensed something else. Fear, not of defeat, but of change, of facing themselves as individuals again. How long to reconfigure the program? He asked. Seconds, but once it starts, there's no stopping it. Sarah's hands hovered over the controls. Whoever stays behind would have the knowledge of how to shepherd other species, to give them true choice when they reach this point. Maya's voice cut through their discussion. Multiple breaches. They're coming through. Marcus looked at the freed prisoners being evacuated, at the coalition warriors fighting to protect them, at humanity's best minds rescued from absorption. He thought of all the species yet to rise, of all the possibilities the future held. Do it, he said. Ascend them. I'll stay. Sarah's eyes widened. Marcus, you don't have to. The implant contains everything, doesn't it? All your research, all the knowledge needed to guide others safely to this point. He managed to smile. Besides, someone needs to make sure the collective never rises again in this form. The quantum cores pulsed faster as Sarah modified the program. Through their neural link, Marcus felt her pride, her sadness, and her hope all at once. It was always you, she said softly. From the moment I modified your implant, you were always meant to be the guardian. Program at 90%, Maya called out. Collective forces approaching the core. Sarah's hands flew across the controls one last time. Marcus, thank you. She pressed her quantum key into his hand once more. When the others are ready, use this. It will show you how to give them the same choice we had. The doors to the quantum core chamber began to glow red as the collective tried to burn through. Sarah initiated the final sequence just as they burst in. Beams of liquid shadow, their forms shifting between states of matter. But they were too late. The quantum cores reached full power, and reality itself seemed to shimmer. Marcus watched as Sarah, Maya, Corell, and all the others began to glow with inner light. Through the neural network, he felt minds awakening across space. Not just the imprisoned ones, but the collective themselves, their unified consciousness dissolving into billions of individual sparks. The shadowy forms of the collective borders stopped their advance, their own bodies beginning to shine as the transformation took them. One by one, the lights rose, passing through the facility's walls like they no longer existed, ascending to a level of reality Marcus could barely comprehend. The last thing he heard through the quantum network was Sarah's voice. Guide them well. We'll be watching. Then he was alone in the chamber, surrounded by empty environmental suits and abandoned weapons. The quantum cores pulsed once more before going silent, their work complete. Through the facility's windows, Marcus watched as lights rose from ships and worlds across space, every consciousness touched by the collective's network ascending to their new state of existence. The Free Minds Coalition vessels glowed like newborn stars before their crews transcended, leaving their organic ships to drift as monuments to what had occurred. At Haven, the quantum core finally fell silent. Humanity's greatest minds, along with countless other species, had moved beyond physical form, but they left behind their greatest gift, the knowledge of how to help others reach the same point of choice when they were ready. Marcus touched the neural implant in his skull, feeling the weight of the responsibility he'd accepted. Somewhere out there, young species were emerging, beginning their own journeys of discovery. They would need guidance, protection, and eventually, the chance to make their own choice about transcendence. He opened a channel to the automated systems of Haven. There was work to be done, a network of guardians to establish. Humanity's first steps into space had drawn the attention of the collective, but their next steps would be taken freely, guided by one who understood the price of ascension. Behind him, the quantum key glowed softly, waiting for the day it would be needed again.